Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Andrea Vaughn, and I'm a long-range planner with CPMP. Today, we'll be discussing a proposed text amendment to the accessory ground-mounted energy systems. Please be aware that the amendments that we are discussing today only apply to those in the unincorporated county. Please also be aware that the chat has been muted, but you are free to drop any of your questions into the Q&A, and we will be discussing those at the end. So to begin, we'll begin with a quick overview, starting with a background on ground-mounted solar in Boulder County, then moving into the purpose of the amendment, and then providing an overview on the proposed text amendment. So starting with a little bit of background on ground-mounted solar in Boulder County. Ground-mounted solar is really simply put just a solar array that has been installed independently of another structure, such as the roof of a home. The current provisions in the code that regulate ground-mounted solar were adopted in 2018, which first made the distinguishment between utility and accessory solar. Accessory solar, simply defined, is intended to serve the needs of the principal use and is not intended for distribution. So those larger solar arrays that you might see driving along the highway would not be applicable for this, for the accessory use or the proposed text amendments that we will be discussing today. These amendments can also be found in, or the provisions are found in Article 4-516, which regulates accessory uses within the county. The 2018 update also distinguished the appropriate processes for the two types of solar, with utility solar being required to go through more intensive processes such as site plan review or special use, whereas the accessory solar has been required to go through site plan review waiver typically, depending on its intensity. It also regulated the disturbed area, which the code defines as the area that's been disturbed in association with the installation of the ground-mounted arrays. Diving in real quick into the rules for accessory ground-mounted solar as they are in the code today. Ground-mounted solar is required to meet zoning setbacks unless an exception is required for efficiency. If the disturbed area is less than half an acre, it can qualify for site plan review waiver. If it's larger than half an acre, it is required to go through site plan review. The max height has also been set at 15 feet, but may go up to 25 feet for efficiency needs. So why are we amending this provision? The goal of the update is to really reduce the need for site plan review waiver for these smaller accessory projects, so long as they fall within certain parameters. The purpose of this code update is to calibrate code language to reality, reduce the barriers to implementing solar energy projects in the county, and then focusing the planning review where it is most impactful. When we talk about calibrating the code, what we really mean is that what we're seeing in the code does not quite match the reality that we're seeing in the building permit process. The code requires that half an acre of disturbed area requires less than half an acre of disturbed area. However, what we're actually seeing is that the projects that are coming in are much smaller. The median disturbed area is about 0.03 acres. Putting that into square feet, the maximum disturbed area is about 21,780 square feet, whereas what we're really seeing is just slightly over 1,300 square feet. Additionally, the code requires that the ground-mounted solar arrays be no more than 15 feet in height. But what we're seeing is that the solar arrays have a median height of about 8.5 feet. So again, what we see in our building permit process just isn't quite meeting up with matching what the code requires. And what we're seeing is really a lot smaller. We are hoping to find a way to right size this process for efficiency. Additionally, when we're talking about reducing the barriers, we are really hoping to create a streamlined permitting process that can bypass site plan review waiver with these strict set of parameters. We also hope that this code amendment will result in more solar installation in the county, which could help the county meet its goals in increasing air quality, reducing greenhouse emissions, reducing resource consumption overall, which would help the county advance its commitment to combating climate change. And then focusing the review. When we talk about this, we're really discussing the limiting the impacts of the review, understanding that our review processes are intended to help limit or mitigate negative. Here we see that the negative impacts from these arrays tend to be environmental resources, as well as negative visual impacts. Here we'll discuss the proposed amendment. The text amendment creates a new subsection E to 4-516K and is intended to create a by right process for ground-mounted solar arrays. Within the amendment, we have identified that solar arrays should not exceed 10 feet in height. In doing the analysis, we found that more than 75% of the approved systems were 10 feet in height or less. Additionally, we determined that there was a need to cluster these solar arrays with the existing development. And so we are proposing that the ground-mounted systems be located within 100 feet of the principal use, whether that be to power a or a single-family home. We believe that clustering the panels with the structure will limit the overall impacts to both the environment as well as the view shed. We are also proposing that the panels do not exceed a cumulative area of 750 square feet. In our analysis, we found that 41% of the permits that were analyzed were of this size or smaller. Furthermore, this provision also replaces disturbed area, in which we will know through this process, we will be measuring the impacts through the size of the panels themselves. We find that this will likely be easier to demonstrate on a building permit rather than the disturbed area. As a condition that is typically seen in the site plan review waivers, there's typically a requirement that the soil be revegetated, and so we are just including that in our proposal. We also are requiring that the systems apply with the zoning setbacks, which is a small departure from the requirement in the code now, where the panels may encroach into the zoning setbacks for efficiency. Through the streamlined process, we are proposing that not be the case.
And finally, the ground-mounted systems shall remain subject to explicit limitations that were imposed on a property through a prior county land use approval or conservation easement, just stating that these systems cannot bypass prior approvals. In our analysis, we found that if these measures have been applied to permits that have been analyzed, 26% of applicants would not be required to go through the site plan review process. We're hoping to actually increase the number of applicants from 26% to something higher, hoping that providing this clear set of parameters encourages applicants to not go through site plan review waiver and instead to use this streamlined process. For our next steps, we are in the referral and outreach period. With public comment open until the 28th of this month. So September 28th, our public comment period closes. We are planning on going to Planning Commission on October 19th, where public comment will also be taken. And then Board of County Commissioners at some point after Planning Commission, and public comment will also be available there. I am happy to take any questions if anybody has any. Additionally, if you have any comments to make for the record, you can go ahead and email me at avon@bouldercounty.org. And the full text can be found on the docket webpage at boco.org/DC-22-0002.
Andrea, I just wanted to mention that.
And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I see a question here from Eric. Will there be a means to make exceptions to the 100-foot minimum distance requirement or prohibition of locating within a setback? Mountain properties are frequently irregular in shape and challenged by topography, such as restrictions may such restrictions may inhibit installation without an avenue for making exceptions, such as a variance. Eric, that's a great question. So this process is really just intended to help applicants bypass site plan review, the site plan review waiver. But it doesn't eliminate it. So if applicants are unable to meet these requirements, site plan review waiver is still an option and would be required if a property is unable to meet those. These parameters that we've identified are so far what we believe the best ways to mitigate the impacts to ground resources, as well as the visual and to limit the visual impacts. Thank you for your question, Eric. Are there any others? These systems have developed to plug and play. What is the purpose of a permit? Well, we do typically want to permit the utilities within the county. And maybe Hannah can better speak to how our permitting processes for these work.
I can hop in here a little bit. Hannah Hipley, Long Range Planning Division Manager. So currently, under this proposal, what we're thinking is solar systems that meet these parameters would go directly to a building permit, and that they would be reviewed for compliance with our building code. Ron Flax is also on the line here too. He can probably speak to sort of how the building code addresses solar arrays.
Yeah, hi, Ron Flax here, Deputy Director of Community Planning and Permitting, as well as building official for the county. The building permitting process for these kinds of systems is getting better and better, easier and easier as time goes on. The question is actually quite accurate, that these systems are getting better integrated. We see fewer of the kinds of problems in terms of things like grounding than we used to, because of the sophistication of the systems. But we still find occasionally things that need to be addressed on the electrical drawings. We still find occasional problems out in the field with the building inspection team. So it's still required to get a building permit under the building code, but that process is definitely getting more streamlined as time goes on.
Thank you, Ron and Hannah. John, was there an additional question that we could answer for you? I see you've got a comment in the Q&A. And are there any other questions for us today?
John, one thing that might be helpful, I see you are making additional comments in the Q&A. There is a means that you can provide written public comment that Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners can consider when discussing this docket. There are also public hearings, I think, where these kinds of comments are probably more helpful.
Thank you, Hannah. John, you are always welcome to share your comments with county staff. Hannah's comment was really more that that some of these concerns may be best brought to the attention of decision makers, and that this is not, we would not be able to provide you an answer for those. But the comments that you provide, you can send them over to me directly via email, and they would be part of the public record. Eric, the potential timeframe for adoption of the amendment, we are hoping for either November or December for Board of County Commissioners, where we, if approved, would be adopted then. All right, and are there any other questions today?
Since people can't talk to us, do you just want to maybe give folks another minute?
Absolutely. And again, you can see the full text amendment on the county's website for the docket page, which is linked at the bottom of this presentation, and I believe has also been linked in the chat.
I think we're at our minute and I don't see any more questions, Andrea.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hannah. So if there are no more questions for today, but there are any other questions that pop up, please feel free to email me. Again, my email is avon@bouldercounty.org. Or if there are any comments that you would like to make for the public record, please email those to me and they will be included for the Planning Commission hearing, as well as the Board of County Commissioners hearing. And again, the Planning Commission hearing is set for October 19th. Thank you everyone for coming today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.